kicks it out to Nadia Koch. No, but
Rebounding queen! Let's get it! Buddy, airballs lamps like angel ring! Bad day to be a rim in Toronto. Me bound and dual pray up, the signature duo. Bah! You just can't look away, man. Potty shot into a me bound. I've seen it all. Base, you get good handle, and then layups. Really good.
This is the league you're expanding? This is the product that you are further watering down? Headline at WNBA.com. WNBA excited to announce expansion to 50-game regular season starting in 2027. What? Excuse me? Expansion. Who in the Rudy Poo asked for more pretend basketball? This league doesn't need to expand. They need to contract. No one, and I literally mean no one, asked to see more of the WNBA dump. You already have 44 unwatchable games on the schedule. You have 216 games this season on national television, which means the WNBA is publicly humiliated 216 times by presenting the worst basketball imaginable. And now you're adding 6 more games to the schedule? Is this dump of a league trying to win the upcoming 4th annual Huge Embarrassing Failure Awards? Do you guys remember Brian Scalabrine? He was a second-round draft pick in the 2001 NBA draft. He spent 11 years in the league, 3 different teams, won a championship with the Boston Celtics back in 2008. Now, as far as the NBA is concerned, Brian Scalabrine was a scrub. I can't even call him a role player because dude averaged 13 minutes a game. 11 years in the league, Brian Scalabrine averaged 3 points and 2 rebounds. He was similar to WNBA legend Cam Brink in the fact that they both averaged triple singles. Throughout his NBA career, and especially while he was in Boston, Brian Scalabrine was made fun of by fans for being a scrub. So 10, maybe 15 years ago, Brian Scalabrine issued a challenge to the lonely male wanker spankers on Reddit who think they are better than journeyman NBA players because they won their doofus fantasy league, or they are the best player in the league in NBA 2K, some doofus video game. Brian Scalabrine, he challenged 4 of the top amateur basketball players in the country to a one-on-one game. Now, at the time of this challenge, Brian Scalabrine had been retired from the NBA for about a year, maybe even 2 years. So he wasn't in great shape. He wasn't at his best. He went one-on-one against former Division I basketball players. He went one-on-one with supposedly the best amateur players in the country. In the 4 games combined, Brian Scalabrine won 44-6. Uncle KC, who cares? What's the point? I'm about to tell you the point. There is a huge difference between the top college basketball players in the country and an end-of-the-bench NBA player who barely touches the court. Being a scrub in the NBA, it means you are better than 99.9999% of basketball players in the country. The difference in skill between an NBA scrub and the top amateur player in the country, it's like comparing a Rolls Royce to a Dodge Dart. It ain't close. Unfortunately, I can't say the same about the WNBA. Look, I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm not saying this to disrespect the ladies in the WNBA along with Bob Griner, but it's the truth. The level of skill in the WNBA is just below the drizzling shits. A couple of years ago, Clay Travis issued a challenge to pretend basketball players in the WNBA. Now, at the time, WNBA players were still making minimum wage. Players working for dumps in major cities, they were living well below the poverty line. Clay Travis offered the top 5 WNBA players in the league $1 million to compete against a championship boys team at the high school level. So-called professional basketball players against prepubescent boys. Self-described elite athletes against kids who were just now learning how to shave. The winner of the game would receive $1 million. The high school boys, they were ready, but there was just one problem, one tiny problem. WNBA players refused to compete. Why? Because they knew they would get their ass kicked. This dump of a league isn't even high school level basketball, which is why I'm struggling to understand why ESPN is dedicating their entire summer to the WNBA and the NWSL. Headline at ESPN. ESPN unveils star-studded summer lineup for Women's Sports Sunday. Oh my stars! This is going to be amazing! The unknowns in the WNBA, the never-knowns in the NWSL. Don't call me on Sunday for the next 2 months. I'll be busy being sedated watching the worst athletes in professional sports. Woohoo! Yes, yes, yes! I go back to my original question. Who asked for this? Who asked for more of the WNBA? Hell, who asked to see any of the NWSL? This is the same NWSL that was brave enough to compete against high school boys in soccer, and they got their ass kicked. So, who in the hell wants to watch that? Who wants to watch high school level sports being played by grown-ups? Last summer, ESPN announced the cancellation of Sunday Night Baseball. Now, I don't even watch Major League Baseball anymore, and even I know the importance of Sunday Night Baseball. Growing up, it was John Miller and Joe Morgan. Every Sunday night, ESPN presented the biggest game of the week in baseball. Last summer, after over 30 years of a successful partnership with Major League Baseball, ESPN abruptly canceled Sunday Night Baseball. Why? Part of it was financial. ESPN didn't want to pay the hundreds of millions of dollars that Major League Baseball was demanding. But the main reason was so ESPN had a full day to promote women's sports. Starting this Sunday, ESPN will deliver 9 consecutive weeks of unbelievably bad programming. The WNBA, the NWSL, they will not only be heavily featured on ESPN, they'll also be on ESPN2, Disney+, ESPN Deportes. So even our Spanish friends can see how putrid this league is. According to ESPN, we are doing this to give women a chance. We are featuring the brightest stars in the WNBA and NWSL. Well, for starters, there are only 2 stars in the WNBA. The only stars in the NWSL are decorative stars hanging off the ears of the only person in the stands who bothered to show up. But as I was looking at this schedule, it's abundantly clear that this is not about women's sports. This is another desperate attempt to elevate the WNBA. In 9 weeks, the NWSL is featured only 3 times. Why? My guess is ESPN knows no one wants to watch it. Look, from a business perspective, from a financial perspective, I understand why this makes sense for ESPN. They were paying $550 million a year for their MLB package. The WNBA is significantly cheaper. Hell, it's essentially free because the WNBA is included with ESPN's NBA package, which means ESPN is basically paying nothing to broadcast pretend basketball. So there is minimal pressure to draw ratings. Most of the money ESPN generates from the WNBA is straight profit. So I understand from a financial perspective, but I still think this is a major mistake. You've essentially lost Major League Baseball. I think ESPN has 30 games a year, and they're all during the middle of the week. Netflix now has the Home Run Derby. The NBA is actively distancing itself from ESPN. They have lost a significant amount of games during the NBA regular season. They've lost early round playoff games. They lost the Big Ten in college football, college basketball at a time when the conference is dominating. Major League Baseball is experiencing a resurgence in popularity, and ESPN, they are dedicating the entire summer to the pretend basketball and the WNBA dump? For decades, the main excuse given as to why the WNBA was a huge embarrassing failure was a lack of coverage, a lack of nationally televised games. Since Caitlin Clark entered the league, the WNBA has received more mainstream coverage than the previous decades combined. And the only thing the WNBA has proven with this coverage, they are not ready for prime time. Again, I am not saying this to be mean, but for years, the mainstream media has worked tirelessly to polish this turd. You guys remember Nancy Armour from USA Today? Pretend basketball is better than real basketball. Women can do anything men can do, and women do it better. There is no amount of propaganda. There is no amount of media promotion. There is no amount of shoving this damn league in our face that will change the fact that the on-court product in the WNBA sucks. If you don't believe me, I challenge you to watch a full WNBA game. Watch the Atlanta Dreamers and the Portland Aspire. Watch the Toronto Pimples against the Phoenix Masculines. I challenge you to make it through the entire game while staying awake. Like I have told you guys repeatedly, the WNBA is only interesting when drama is involved. Once you remove the drama, now that players are no longer jealous of Caitlin Clark, now that there is no perceived enemy for her fan base, all you're left with is the product on the court. And it's tough to sell that product to a mainstream audience because it's substandard. Clearly, I am not the only one who thinks this. I noticed something else interesting about ESPN's schedule for Women's Sports Sunday. The 9 weeks of bad programming. It runs from June 21st to August 16th. I checked the WNBA schedule. Their regular season doesn't end until September 24th, which means ESPN has another 4 or 5 weeks of make-believe basketball. So why would they stop a month early? Uncle Casey, the NFL and college football starts in September. Yeah, but college football's on Saturday. ESPN only has Monday Night Football in the NFL, and that doesn't account for the final 2 weeks in August. Ironically enough, 3 days after Women's Sports Sunday is forced into hibernation, ESPN begins their coverage of the Little League World Series. I'll let you draw your own conclusions on that one. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys tomorrow.